Hello, this is the Council on Independent Fundamental Bible Doctrine. I am currently doing my next video in the Amazing Word series, and it is titled Ancient Architectural Characteristics. What we're going to see in this video is some of the ways that when we find ancient architecture, it gives credence to some of the biblical content that makes us understand why things are the way they are in architecture from the distant past. So we're going to go ahead and look at these things, starting out with Genesis 11, 3, 4, and 9. And they said one to another, "Come, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven." Okay, this is when they were building the Tower of Babel. They just got done with the flood, and they built the tower. Okay, so this is where all the people pretty much were in this general geographical area, because this happened shortly after the flood. Okay, this is right before God confounds their languages to divide them and says, divide into different parts of the earth. And this occurs right before that event of God dividing the people. Okay, and this event occurs just after the flood. Now the flood, and behold, I do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh. I mean, you recently have discoveries of shark fossils in Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. Okay, soft tissue like spongy tissue in dino fossils. That's because they're not that old. Okay, coal deposits. People have always wondered why coal deposits are laid down in even gigantic sheets, because coal deposits are made from compressed vegetation. Okay? So, how would you get compressed vegetation in large, giant sheets laid down evenly? Well, one guy in the late 70s, early 80s had a thought that it would be a floating vegetation mat. So when Mount St. Helens went up, afterwards he went and he looked at the floating vegetation mat. He went diving, and sure enough, I think he said it was like 15 to 25 feet of evenly dispersed vegetation on the floor under the water on the lake bottom. Okay? And so what it had done is it continually drops pieces, and it just made layers. Okay? And that would explain why, okay, it would be laid down in even sheets all over. Okay? Well, his people he did his dissertation in front of, they said, "That's a great theory. That's actually excellent." But then, you're never going to be able to explain how they're so large and how they're so big and how they cover so much of the earth. Well, that's because they didn't believe in a worldwide flood. So see what we have in reality: sharks in Mammoth Cave, seashells on every mountaintop that there is, fish fossils on the mountaintops. Okay, it's because it was covered with the flood. Okay, coal deposits that run for huge distances, all evenly laid down. Okay? That would be explained by a worldwide flood. And this, okay, this building of the first tower, why do we have ancient pyramids on every continent in all kinds of different countries in all the different continents? Why are they all building the same general architectural characteristics? Well, it's because they all saw the first one. And then God confounded their languages. Then they split up and went into different parts of the world, as the Bible says. And then they continued to build. That's why you have pyramids in South America, Central America, China, Indonesia. Okay? That it's because they all saw the first one. Okay? And the first one was after the flood. There was architecture before the flood as well. See, you can go to all these sites like Machu Picchu and so many sites in Egypt, in South America, where the Incas. You can go to Asia, and you can look and you can find megalithic structures. And some of them are a lot more megalithic than others. But here's the thing, the stones are cut perfectly with no mortar. Okay? And they're tightly fit to where you can't even get a piece of paper to slide in between them. And some of these rocks have different angles, 5 different angles. I think one of them was measured at like 13 different angles. And the rock above it was fit right perfectly to it. The rock beside it was fit right perfectly to it. And they're huge stones. And some of them you could not, there are some that would have trouble being lifted, with a crane. Okay? So we have all these different places, but here's the thing, they were all built with the same ancient architecture. Now understand, the ancients we know did not build them. Okay? See, when you look at Inca and Aztec stuff, when you look at these sites, what they have discovered is that type of architecture is at the bottom. And as you go up, at some point, it turns into a much less quality, much smaller stones, just stones that you could lift as a person, and mortar. Why does it change from the beautiful, perfect fitting, huge stones to this? It's because it was made by 2 different people. Okay? What happened was, the general thought is that because these partially great walls and partially great structures and really huge stones, megalithic structures, they're all over the world. So there was a worldwide civilization, but a lot of them, most of them, have had the tops wiped off. Okay, so there was some type of worldwide cataclysm that took the tops off, that knocked the tops off, and when the areas were repopulated, okay, when the areas were repopulated, the people that found them could not continue that building because they didn't know how to do it. Okay, but they continued their building, their architectural characteristics on top of the former architectural characteristics. I mean, you can look at Machu Picchu, you can look at all of them. Ancient Egypt, South America, people, they all had the same architectural characteristics. There had been a worldwide civilization at one point. It's almost undeniable. They were all building the same way. They were all doing things the same way. And something destroyed it. And then after remigration came in, okay, after the cataclysm, they didn't know nearly as much about building and they built on top of those structures with very different type of building techniques. Okay, and it's very obvious when you look at the pictures of these places. Now, you have a lot of stuff online that's crazy and everything, and you don't know what's true and what's not half the time. But there's a lot of talk about mountains that have been discovered to be covered over pyramids. Okay, and the people living around the area didn't even know it. Okay, there's the Bosnian ones. They're saying they're pyramids, and they may be, or like I said, some may be, some may not. But here's the thing: they're popping up all over the place. Okay, people are saying, "Man, this thing looks exactly like a pyramid." And lo and behold, a lot of times when that happens, the government goes in and closes off the area so nobody can go in. So it's one of those things where it's happening a lot. And they're finding pyramids under the water that have sunken in off the coast. Okay, they are finding sunken cities, sunken pyramids, and they have megalithic structures, tightly fit rocks, although some of them are not tightly fit because they sunk into the ocean. But some of them are still fit right on top of each other. Some of them, it's like the water level rose without the thing actually falling. Okay, and some of them, it's like it fell, so it has some of them that are tightly fit and some of them that have been destroyed. But how do you get that to happen? Because they say it would have taken thousands of people, decades, if not 100 years, to build some of those pyramids. Okay, and then they forgot about them? Okay, no. What would have happened is they would have had to have been wiped out, okay, by something that would have covered over the pyramid with dirt and soil, and then it would have taken years for the population to re-migrate to that area from where the ark landed. Okay, and by the time they got there, it would have been covered over so they could have lived there and not realized they were right by a pyramid. I mean, that's something that could happen easily under a worldwide flood. And just so happens that people are starting to notice that there's a few of these things around that have been covered over that nobody even knew was there. So you would have had to kill everybody that was at it. Okay, diminish the population so greatly that it would not have been repopulated before it grew over after it had been covered over. Okay, you see, I mean, the flood is fitting with our reality more and more and more all the time. And that is how you would get that is how you would have pyramids in every continent. Okay, because they'd all seen the same type of structure before. Okay? It's no mystery. The Bible fits what we find in reality so well. Okay, well, thank you. I'll get this up.